Alrighty.
Welcome to Switching Reels.
Yeah, welcome to Switching Reels, Connor.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I guess. Let's go talk about this thing.
All right. So,
What
did we watch?
Yeah, we watched. Is it just Goodfellas or The Goodfellas?
It's Goodfellas.
It's just Goodfellas.
Yeah.
All right. We watched Goodfellas.
Yes, we
The
did.
1990 classic.
Yep.
Number 17 on the IMDb top 250 list.
Yes.
There we go. 17 in though, with all of our bonus episodes, so we're doing a good job.
Yeah, I guess.
All things considered.
We've done consistent output, so
Exactly.
I'm happy about that.
I like the consistent output as well.
All right, so let's start off with recommendations. Who do you recommend this movie to?
Anyone that wants some existential sadness. Like, it's actually a very good story. I'm really looking forward to talking about it. But, like, you watch this movie and you're like, all of this was predictable, my good sir. Nothing that you did was unpredictable. We predicted it all.
I mean, as far as people that I would recommend it to, I would say anyone that is remotely interested in watching a mafia film.
Absolutely. Yep, mafia film. It does have a bunch of violence in it, lots of cursing, minimal sex, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Lots of implied sex.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, it's I would say it is even more than The Godfather. I would say it's the quintessential.
This is very quintessential mob. Like,
Yeah.
like I feel like I liked. Oh, and we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
and I'll talk more about why I think that's the case. But
so if you're in for some large amounts of violence, but different than The Godfather, like it's a different kind, then you're good for this.
I would say it's far more violent than The Godfather.
I would absolutely agree with you. I think like that was crazy.
So we reached the question that
question.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this.
It is a really well done movie. Like
Yeah.
all of the plot and points and everything carries you through, and very compelling characters. The characterization is great. So I would say
Yeah.
it totally deserves its place on the list.
Okay.
I may not necessarily like find it the most enjoyable movie, but even that, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, there's part of me that's like, no, this was an enjoyable movie too.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would watch it again,
Okay. Yeah.
but it absolutely, I think, deserves to be where it is.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would probably agree. Yeah. I mean, if I have one issue with the movie, it's that and I understand why they did this, and we will talk about more of it on the other side of the spoiler wall. But the one issue I have with it is it feels like some of the story is kind of choppy, where it'll just be like we see.
You had to catch up yourself. You had to do a lot of work in this movie.
Yeah. It feels like a lot of like instances in the characters' lives, and we just watch these instances together, and that's what creates the whole.
Another slice of life, but it's a weird slice of life.
It's multiple slices of life that's supposed to make up the full life.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would say it absolutely deserves its place on the list.
Yeah, completely agree.
For me, this is an enjoyment probably of 9.
Nice. That's reasonable.
And I would say that technical, I would also put it at about a 9.
Yeah.
And the only reason I would knock any points off is there are some very clear continuity errors that can break you out of the scene if you're watching closely.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So on mine, I'm going to technical first. I think I'm only going to put it at around an 8.
Okay.
The dialogue, which is very important, is difficult to make out without, like, it doesn't feel like it was mixed as well as it could have been.
Okay.
I feel like I was straining a lot more for a lot of the dialogue, and it does take a lot of work for me to go and like watch it. But on the other side, characterization is fantastic. All of the set design is fantastic. It's very immersive. Like you feel like you're just watching a movie. Like, and the culture creation is gorgeous. So
yeah,
enjoyment. My heart says a 7. I feel like it deserves an 8. And so we'll go a strong 7, light 8.
Okay, yeah, that's completely fair. So this is where we're going to put the spoiler warning
Yeah!
and our request that if you enjoy what we're doing here, that you would like, subscribe, and if you don't like what we're doing, comment and tell us what we can do better.
Or if you like it, I like positive affirmation. So please tell us we're doing good as well. Tell us anything.
Absolutely. All right.
Good. Into the summaries.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Nice.
This is the story of Henry and Karen Hill. Specifically Henry, as he grows up in the mafia, has his time there, and then promptly exits.
Very promptly.
And goes into the witness protection program.
Valid. Yeah, that's nice and easy, straightforward. So we follow. Yeah, nope. Henry wants to be a mobster, and he is. But that doesn't go well for him, and so he stops after ratting all of his network out.
Yep. Yeah, it's this one I don't think could fit into anything more than a really bare bones summary.
Yeah, because there's so many pieces. Again,
Yeah.
like it's a very scene driven movie. So like
Yeah.
you see a lot of different stuff. You see him killing people. You see him doing odd jobs. You see him blowing up cars. You see him going and creating a cocaine network. You see him going and having affairs with random women and having children and trying to separate.
Well, they're
the
not
two.
random. The women aren't random.
That's true. Not for him.
Well, no, I mean, like, there's Janice, which she enters the scene kind of randomly.
Very fast.
That being said, he stays with Janice for
a long
a
time.
while, and then
there's Sam.
Then he goes to prison,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife tells him, "I don't want you to see Janice anymore," and he's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then we never see her again.
Nope, not at once.
But her friend, who we've met earlier in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
Sandy,
Mm-hmm.
then becomes his basically packager for
nice.
his cocaine stuff.
I was wondering if we had seen her before.
Yeah. So
That makes sense.
yeah. But yeah, I would say like what this movie does really well is it really, and I noticed this right at the beginning, it pulls you in
Mm-hmm.
to kind of feeling like you are getting a glimpse into somebody's life.
Absolutely. Very
And
much
not
so.
just a person's life, but sort of a culture that we
Exactly.
don't really interact with.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very insular, and you
Yeah.
really get that feeling.
Yeah.
I feel like this one, like normally you want to do your best to like not tell, but show. But this one, like the dialogue and the time skips
oh yeah.
being told to you was, I think, really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it was the fact that Henry's voice, and I'm partially that's just on Ray Liotta's acting, but
Mhm.
part of it is also just the way it was written. Like, it feels like it's more immersive rather than less.
Yeah.
Which is tough to do.
Exactly.
I've written a decent amount of scripts. I've read more scripts.
Mm-hmm.
No one can write dialogue that draws you in like that.
No, it
or
is really
voiceover
good.
dialogue.
Absolutely.
that draws you in
No,
like
he did
that.
a really, really good job with it. Both he and Karen, I think, did a really good job
Oh,
with
yeah.
the couple pieces that we had from Karen as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely agree with that. Initial reactions, I like.
The word you've been using is traumatized.
Yeah, I have been using traumatized because I do like all of this is predictable.
Yeah.
It's like we understand what's going to happen once Henry starts going down these roads. And you're like, I just have to set myself up for sadness the entire movie. You don't get a break. And then they put like rather like strong domestic abuse adjacent like things in it as
Yeah.
well as like justifications for it and stuff, and you're like And
Yeah.
the amount of like I'm surprised the houses that he lived in did not explode with the amount of gaslighting that he was doing. So
That's a terrible joke.
so that's like, and the way that he laughs, that broke me out of my immersion a few times.
I don't know. I know what you're talking about, and it has bothered me on certain watch throughs, and in other ones, it's made me like feel like I understand his character a little bit more.
That makes sense.
It's very strange.
No, and I feel like if I did watch it again, that I would probably feel that way as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally I watched it. I was like, okay, no, I can understand that this is technically excellent, but I don't know that I want to watch it again. And it's not the same way that like I almost want to go and watch Schindler's List again, even though it is just actually traumatizing. Like
right.
That,
yeah.
Like that destroys your heart. This one I'm like an experimental candy flavor. You know, like sometimes you go eat alligator once in a while, and you're like, okay, cool, thanks for the experience.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this is one where I remember when I first watched it and I went, oh, that was a thing. And then I kept thinking about it for like a month.
I'm excited to see that.
Okay, I've got to watch it again.
That might be me. We'll see.
Because the scenes are, again, this is a very scene-driven film. And like the scenes do kind of stick with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's some scenes that are also just really, really cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
Like watching him come back after the dude across the street does what he does.
Yeah.
And just watching him take this guy out is just so cathartic.
It really is.
It, like, on one hand, you watch it and you're like, that probably wasn't the right response. But on the other hand, you're like, that part of you that wants sort of that instant justice is
absolutely
very so happy to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, that's I would say the other thing that this movie is just a testament to is how fascinating we find criminal life.
Yeah, completely agree.
Because this is, I would argue that this is one of the most entertaining movies we've watched so far.
It is very entertaining. Absolutely. Like, it does hook you and keep you engaged the entire time. And I don't know that I laughed at all, but mostly because I was sad. There's a lot of emotional repression going on.
Yeah. And I mean, there are enough things in here where my sense of humor is just twisted enough that I can find it funny.
Yes.
But and again, having seen it as many times as I have, it's probably been, I don't know, 7 or 8 times that I watched this. So like, I've seen it a few times.
A fair number.
So,
absolutely.
You start seeing things and you go, yeah, that's actually kind of funny. Like it's not, probably shouldn't be laughing at it, but it's funny.
It's funny. So what things do you like the most about this one?
I mean, honestly, it's probably it's a close race between the characterization, because the characters are just flawless,
just like lifelike. They are so good.
You know what? I take it back. It's atmosphere. It's atmosphere.
The atmosphere is gorgeous.
Because like this is like, you really feel like these are real people, and it's not just the characters that get a lot of like screen time and that kind of stuff. Like it's
all of them.
You got Frankie Carbone, who you're like, yeah, dude's just an idiot, and he's walking around with the biggest nose of any of them, and you're just like, yeah, it's that guy.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, there's just, you feel like you're a part of
this family,
everything that's going on.
Yes.
While also being outside of it. So yeah, I think it really does come down to atmosphere in this one for me. The fact that I can watch people cooking so much food in this.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I know I just ate, but I want to eat again.
Exactly. And also like the way that they like incorporated food into just normal life along with all of the other things that they're doing.
Yeah.
Like at the end where he's like, oh, I've got some cocaine and guns to steal, and I also need to go make sure I go get my brother so that we can go and have dinner tonight. And like, oh, this is astounding. It's so good.
Feel sorry for the poor guy. He's been staring at helicopters and tomato sauce all day.
Exactly. Can't do it. Need my hat.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is like, I don't know, the atmosphere just does really grip me.
No, it's really, really well done.
But I would say the close runner up behind is the characterization and the just the scene direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even characters that we get one scene with.
Spider.
Well, yeah. Spider sticks with you.
Mm-hmm.
The bat sticks with you, where like you watch him just make fun of Tommy in one scene, and then like his murder is one of the, I would say, most visceral scenes.
It's exceptionally like animalistic. Like it is feral. It is crazy. Yes.
And some of that may be because we revisit it. Yeah. Like it opens with that, and then we have it happen
it's
again.
Halfway through almost through the movie, and then is actually when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do enjoy, especially with monster movies, like starting with something in the middle to help draw you in and be like, oh, okay, so that's the tone. I know what to expect for the entire thing now.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite part of this. I mean, you clearly are still working through some emotions with it, so if you want to answer the question, then go for it.
I think it is characterization for me, because you do just feel sad for every single person in this movie.
I don't.
I know you
I kind of feel like they deserve it.
Okay, that makes sense too. But like, it's the idea that Henry was pulled into this just from like seeing it. Like it was he grew up in a culture where this was the better option.
Yeah.
At least to him. And like it did provide security. I was thinking the entire time through this movie, I was like, oh wow, these guys are providing the same service as the government, just slightly more extreme.
And they do say that pretty explicitly at one point. That's what the feds could never understand.
Exactly. Like we were just looking out for people that couldn't go to the cops.
Yeah.
Like, it made a lot of sense as well, where like they were offering protection of your property essentially with some
but I mean the fact that they would screw you over for it because it made them more money.
Exactly.
Right? Like you think about the restaurant, right? Guys like, hey, I need some help with the restaurant, and they're like, okay, fine, so we'll buy a bunch of stuff on the restaurant's tab and then move it out the back and sell it at a discount.
Yeah. And then burn down the restaurant.
It's free
money.
And it's like,
it's free real estate.
But like the point being, like, that wasn't really helping anybody but them.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a very good point as well.
I would say it's the justification, but I don't think it is necessarily.
They justify a lot, especially in the voiceovers.
Yeah.
Like first Henry does it, and it was like it doesn't even feel like crime at some point. Yeah. Like it's just where people working, and then Karen says that too after they get married, and it's like at some point it doesn't even feel like they're just blue collar workers. Exactly. And it's like I started to feel proud that he would go out and do a little bit extra for us, so that we could have a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Whew. But like that was so interesting, because I feel like a lot of people can resonate with the idea of, yes, we know this is bad. We knew at some point this was bad, but you do it for so long that you're like, it's regular now. You don't really think about the morality of it any longer.
Yeah.
And I think like especially people in general are really good at that. Like, it's because you can't be focusing, like it's the extreme of you can't focus on every single injustice, but they abuse that like very, very, very deeply.
Yes. I think that's the morality question that comes up with this movie is fascinating.
Awesome. And like the themes in this,
Yeah.
gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to going and talking about those because like it is chock full of commentary on society and humanity and people, and it's so cool.
Yes. Let's go ahead and skip ahead to it.
I love it.
So
Okay, cool.
I will say one thing that I do really appreciate about it is you're right. It is full of these commentaries, but it also doesn't preach to you.
No, it isn't preaching.
Like at any point, does like it
Observing.
never tells you what to think.
No.
It never tells you who's right and who's wrong. It
Yeah.
just tells you what these people are thinking and what they're doing.
And why they are doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Like in their own justifications. And one of the things that really stood out to me is that Henry's the one that goes to prison, even though you have Tommy out here shooting whoever he wants to
Yeah.
with no repercussions. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing that happens to this guy.
Yeah.
Even Jimmy goes to jail for a little bit.
I think Tommy technically does as well.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay, we just don't see him.
Yeah.
Got you.
Because they're all there at the parole office together.
Yeah, they are all at the parole office, so they could all be going to parole.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. So if that is the case, like the fact that the punishment is the same for everyone, and Henry is like, if we're going like it's the whole, is it immoral to break a law idea? Like laws are generated by people to go and help sustain a nice society.
Right.
And there are probably things that are objectively bad, like killing people, but like, is stealing from cars and trucks illegal? Is blowing up immoral? Is blowing up personal property immoral as compared to murder?
Yeah.
And so at least in the movie, to me, it was like society doesn't care. It doesn't matter.
Well, and we see a lot of the ways that this idea is allowed to be perpetuated by the fact that through the entire movie, the majority of the presence of the cops is just being paid off.
It's just being paid off.
Constantly. We see them get paid off with
cigarettes and money.
Yeah, the cigarette bust at the beginning. We see them paid off when, well, we don't see them paid off, but we hear about them being paid off when they come to search the house. We see them paid off when he's running drugs inside the prison.
Yep.
It's prison guard, but
warden,
it's still
but it's the authority, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and the fact that it's sort of reinforcing this idea that morality is really just what you like. Something that is wrong morally is just something you can't pay your way out
of. Which we see a lot in this.
Yeah.
Like the what got them caught the first time? Why did they go to prison?
Selling the cigarettes. Oh, going to prison.
Yeah.
That was I'm spacing it.
Wasn't the really big heist? Because that happens after they're out of prison.
No, it wasn't the heist.
I can't remember. I'm sure it'll come back to us here.
Yeah.
In a second. But
speaking of things that got away from us, in the Matrix episode, the word I was looking for was conventions.
Oh.
Which you don't remember the context most likely, so
probably won't.
breeze past
I'll go
it.
listen to the last episode and I'll be like, conventions. I see now. Gotcha.
So yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I actually can't remember what my train of thought was here. We're still on themes though, and it's still just like we're seeing cops are just there to be paid off.
Yeah.
And authority is just there to be paid off. There's some times where justice happens, but it's only, like you were saying, when something so immoral happens that you can't get out of it.
Yeah. Well, and we see some indication of that earlier as well, with Paulie saying, hey, you did what you had to when you were in prison, but now that you're out, stay away from the garbage.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's something you can't pay your way out of.
They went down to Florida. They beat up a guy whose sister was part of the FBI. It was the FBI typist.
Yeah.
And she went up to the FBI because she works there.
Yeah. And turned everybody in.
That's what it was. It was random. He was like, yeah, it could have happened to anyone.
Yeah.
Essentially, that was the vibe that I got from him.
Yep.
It was just so interesting.
Yeah.
Ugh.
The other thing that I found really interesting in this watch is the themes of family.
Yeah.
Especially when you watch the different ways that people interact with their families.
Mm-hmm. And the like biological family versus the mafia family.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think one thing that was really interesting to me was the fact that um, Karen stayed married to him through the entire film.
yeah.
Um, we see Jimmy's wife in the background a lot. Like she shows up just here and there, but for the most part, he's not really
Completely
attached.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Tommy is explicitly unattached.
Explicitly unattached. I settle down every night and I'm free in the morning.
But like you kind of compare that with what is like say Paulie. Anytime that he is somewhere that he's not conducting business, he's with his wife.
Yep.
Like constantly. And it's really, really interesting to watch sort of that dynamic, especially when we get some of Karen's inner monologue stuff. That's actually some of my favorite voiceover in the film because she does just seem to have a different perspective on all of this than Henry does.
Absolutely.
And we don't see it as clearly, but I would say it's the view of someone that is sort of unwillingly a part of this life.
Absolutely. Like she doesn't like she mentions that like I know most of my best friends would just break up with a guy if they handed him a gun, but I can't lie, it turns me on. And
right.
That's,
yeah.
Like that's why she's there. Like this life still excites her. And for a little while she uses the justification of I don't really know anything to stay around even though she totally knows what's going on.
Right. Yeah. So completely I mean agree. There's a lot of other themes that I'm kind of spacing on.
Yeah.
Tommy's got his whole thing with race, which I don't know if we want to get into that.
Did he?
Oh yeah, you talk about his thoughts with Sammy Davis Jr. And he is the first to say the N-word.
Oh, that is true.
If anybody's going, I mean, Henry does a few times as well.
Yes.
But and I find it interesting that he's also the one that ends up killing Stax.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there is enough here for me to say what
consistently. Yeah, exactly. But there's some vibe there, and I would agree with that completely.
Yeah.
I am glad that he died. I did not like him and his complete moral like
It's interesting that you say that because most people, myself included, think that he's a terrible human being, but also just find him so charismatic and fascinating to watch.
He's charismatic. But
I love him being on screen. I just don't like him as a person.
I don't like, and I think that's probably it. Like he's a great character, great actor.
Yeah.
I don't like people that can't be reasoned with, and that was the simplest solution.
Fair enough.
Poor Jimmy, because that was a great scene.
Oh
the whole like, hey, the starting at the diner and then going through Tommy being made and made quote unquote, and then getting shot for a crime that he did nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah,
like that is a grudge.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah, absolutely.
Like it's astounding.
Everything about that scene is perfect though. Like watching him walk into the room and going, oh no,
damn, and then dying. See it on his face. It's like, shoot. I liked the comment like, and they shot him in the head, so his mom couldn't even do an open faced
an open casket.
An open casket.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this pretty well segues into our standout performances.
Absolutely.
Assuming you don't have more to say about
No,
themes.
and if I do, I'll come back.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I can't think of anybody in this that did a bad job.
No, I don't think like there is no two fighters versus a Star Destroyer here. Like,
Yeah.
they're all of the characters are great and they act fantastically.
Yeah, and I would say the people that are probably the best actors are also the ones at the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
We don't rising stars not included. Like Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was like, that was Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. He had a very minor role, but at that point in his career, he wasn't very well known.
In the 90s, that's crazy. I guess that is 30 years ago.
It's the early 90s. Well, yeah, it was 90.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's always been a thing. Like in
our lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's already been well established up to this point.
Yeah.
But this was 5 years before I was born. So like that's crazy to think about. Did De Niro have a following up to this point already?
Oh yeah. I mean, he had a lot with Scorsese. He was a big part of the I'd say the section just after the American New Wave. That's film history, so like
Connor sees my eyes glaze over just slightly.
Just very broad strokes. In the 60s, all of the studios were going, oh no, we don't know what to do. Nobody's going to the movies anymore because we're churning out the same thing
kind of, yeah,
every single week. Well, let's give a bunch of money to these guys that are fresh out of film school and see what they can do. And they made a whole bunch of experimental stuff that was just really good. And that's where we saw a lot of the like huge directors that we know today, like Francis Ford Coppola or Martin Scorsese or George Lucas or any of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
They all came out of that.
So cool.
And so, yeah, Robert De Niro was kind of a favorite actor in a lot of, I would say, just post American New Wave stuff. So
that's really awesome.
Yeah,
I love that. That's a good history lesson there.
So yeah, that's the broad strokes version of it.
That's a good. I like those broad strokes. Those were well done. Thank you.
But yeah, Robert De Niro was great. Ray Liotta did an incredible job.
Mm-hmm.
I am ashamed that I don't know the name of the actress for Karen Hill.
Me too.
Because she is fantastic.
She did so well in this movie.
Although the thing is, I can't say that I have seen her in anything else. So
I don't know that I have either, obviously, but I wouldn't have remembered if I had.
And then, Joe Pesci is always fantastic as well.
Joe Pesci?
Joe Pesci? Yeah, he was Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
You know him from Home Alone.
Barely. I've seen that movie. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
He's great in that. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Far more terrifying when you think about the fact that that movie was made after Goodfellas.
After Goodfellas. Oh my gosh. That would have been some great dissonance for anyone that had watched Goodfellas first and was watching this kids show with their family in the movie theaters, and they're like, "Oh, is this gonna take a turn at any point?"
It's kind of like watching Samuel L. Jackson in any kids' film.
Yeah, in any G.
You're like, when's the dialogue gonna change?
Exactly. I know something's gonna happen here.
He isn't yelling at anybody.
Exactly.
But yeah, I would say just fantastic performances all around.
I completely agree.
Even Martin Scorsese's mom did an incredible job.
Absolutely. She was so good. Being a director's mom, she did.
Yeah, and actually, she is one of my favorite characters in the movie because she just, anytime she's on screen, she's like, I'm happy about this.
Exactly.
I'm glad you came to visit. I'll make you some food.
I'll make you some food. Get yourself a girl. Mom, I have girls. Yeah, that was really, really well done.
Yeah.
And I liked the masking of very uncomfortable situations with laughter through the entire thing. Like, as soon as something intense happens, there is someone laughing to try and break the tension.
Usually.
Usually.
Yeah.
Like, it's true. Sometimes on the one-offs, you don't have, like, one-on-one
Yeah.
interactions, obviously, you don't really have that. But,
Yeah, like Bats,
yeah.
where everybody's in on killing him and
Yes.
nobody's laughing.
No one is laughing. They're all very annoyed at him. Did they kill his wife?
Whose wife?
Bats.
No, she just so we don't find out if he's
Okay.
married or anything like that, but
Gotcha.
everybody else has left. He's just sitting in the bar by himself and he's talking to
Whoops.
Jimmy.
Sorry, I meant the guy that was, for no better terms, busting Jimmy's balls about the money.
Oh, yeah, Morey.
Morey.
Yeah, there is no indication that they killed his wife.
Okay. Good. She seems nice.
Yeah, the last line that we hear about it is with Jimmy telling Henry, like, just tell her that he ran off with some broad. It's like, all right, well, I guess
cool,
that's gonna be your
sounds nice. Yeah. Jimmy pulling out his, like, sadistic side near the middle of the movie, like, didn't throw me off guard, but I was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
so, yeah, sure, Tommy will just go kill people, but, like,
yeah,
Jimmy is paranoid as heck.
Well, yeah,
which is,
and some of that was because of the events that happened, right?
Exactly.
Like, the fact that he
bought a car after a giant heist. What do you think this is?
Yeah,
which is a very good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I also think, just kind of showed some of De Niro's range.
Yeah.
As much as I loved,
he hit it too.
Yeah. As much as I loved the performances of just about everybody in here, I'd say outside of the Hills, we don't see a whole lot of range from many people.
Yeah, they do their characters perfectly.
Yeah.
But De Niro is able to go, like...
He goes from, like, this gentleman criminal to, like, this terrifying,
exactly,
like,
and he looks
sort
the
of
same
force
too. Like, you understand that his presence has changed.
Yeah.
But, like, he as a character hasn't. Like, he looks the same basically through the entire movie.
Yeah.
But, like, his demeanor and his, like, how he
ages some toward the end, and somehow that makes it creepier.
Very creepy, actually. And adding the glasses, was just so good. Like, also, all bad things happen in Florida. Because that's why they get caught the first time, and that's where Henry would have died if he had gone to.
I don't think all things bad happen in Florida. It's going to Florida means bad things happen.
Yes, Florida man, before Florida Man existed.
Yeah.
It's crazy thinking that there were no computers and stuff in this.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, like, it felt like this would, like, have... I don't know why. It felt more technologically, like, forward than a lot of other ones. Maybe just because they mentioned phones so often. But
well, they go through the 1980s, and I don't think PCs were super popular until the 80s. In the 80s,
yeah, it was like 90s where they started hitting. That's my understanding.
Not to mention the fact that with these guys, the reason they're talking about phones all the time is you don't want to have a phone in your house because it's a problem.
It is a problem. Anyone can hear that thing.
Yeah. In the age when we still had to tap the wires.
Whenever they said, I thought it was common cops, it was actually the narcs. And I was like, narcoleptics. And I was like, oh, wait, no, it's narcotics. I got it.
Right, yeah. I think I'm ready to move on to technical things, if you are.
Too. Let's do it.
All right.
Into technical.
Camera work. So, really fascinating thing, just as far as ground that this movie broke. It was the first movie to use, like, extended Steadicam scenes. So, for example, the most famous one is them going down through the Copacabana kitchens.
They did so well with that.
Yeah.
It was all one shot, and it was really, really well done, and they went in a giant circle in the kitchen, and it was crazy.
Yeah. So, like, there is some incredible camera movement in here, and
Very, very
also
well done.
just some gorgeous uses of like whip pans and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where-
Like really well done, actually. Like
Yeah.
it's,
Where
it
it
can
just
feel very
makes it
tacky.
feel
Exactly.
stylish.
It does.
Yeah, so I really appreciate the camera work in this.
The transitions didn't feel jolty, especially since they paired that with voiceover a bunch of the
Yeah.
time, which I thought was really, really cool.
I liked when they did do some, I would say, intentionally choppy editing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much of that was a result of less than reliable editing equipment. Because this is
How
back.
did you edit with? Actually, that's probably a blooper
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Like, I want to go over. I'll go and film
A
you.
giant machine that was likely to drop frames, like really likely to drop frames.
You have to cut out the pieces and stitch them back together.
Mhm.
I hate that. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Thelma Schoonmaker was crazy talented editor. She died like, I don't know, 3 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, so sad.
Yeah.
Good job, though. You're doing great work with the technology you have.
Yeah.
Whew.
But yeah, I would say as far as technical, that's about all I got.
So other technical, the blood was great. And the choreography all felt real.
Oh yeah.
Like there were none of these deaths that felt weird.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that person should have died from what just happened. And it's
Yeah.
crazy that they're a real life person that didn't die
Yeah.
from this. Like
The one exception I have is there is a scene or there's a shot with Stax where he kind of like stands up before he falls down. And that feels weird.
yeah.
But everything else, I'm like, yeah, that person is dead.
They're
very
just
dead.
dead. Exactly. The dialogue is fantastic. I loved the, like, you really only get a really good juxtaposition of the kind of dialogue that all of the insular group has versus maybe like what we would define as regular people when they're talking with the FBI agent at the end.
Yeah.
And they are like talking in these very clipped, like subtext, very like filled sentences. And this
Yeah.
guy is like, and that's exactly how I felt at the end of this movie because and this is to the movie's credit, like the way that they all spoke, like with the repetitive things and like relying a lot on the tone and the context to get across what they're actually trying to say is just so interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times when they'll ask the same question like 3 or 4 times in a row.
Exactly.
Just until they're sure that whoever is they're
On the
talking to
receiving
is
side.
picking up what they're laying down.
Exactly. Jimmy is really bad about it.
Yeah.
With the guy that bought the car.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, no, completely agree.
So yeah.
So poor Spider. You just can't hear things.
Spider is probably the only
shot, and then his
Spider is probably the only character in this entire film that I actually feel bad
sorry
for.
Like, it's so sad when he dies. Like, if it was anyone else, he wouldn't have died. But it was Tommy. Dang.
Yep.
That was so sad. That was me. I got shot.
Oh no.
Oof. Oh my gosh, and it's a parallel a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Like with Bats. Like Tommy, like no matter what, Tommy still wins at the end, but like Bats was the one to go and start the antagonism the first time with Tommy, and then Tommy comes back and kills him.
Yeah.
This one, Tommy starts the antagonism and then just gets a little bit back.
That's interesting.
But he still kills him.
I didn't pick that up.
Like,
every time I see that, I see it as more a reflection of Henry when he was parking the cars.
Me too, but that as well. Like, because connecting it to that then as well, like Henry could have died if Tommy had existed at the same time as Henry. Like,
he did exist at the same time as Henry.
Well, yeah, but like with the same kinds of age different. Oh my gosh, and status differences. It's so weird. I really
Yeah.
like Polly.
And
Polly was a respectful mobster.
yeah. I feel like I'm probably missing something with sort of the changing of the times. And I feel like that every time I watch this,
Mhm.
where I'm like, I feel like it's saying something about the way that things used to run versus the way that they run now.
But it's very much not Godfather level of it.
Yeah,
You know?
like
it's just kind of
the
an
Godfather.
observation.
The Godfather is a war between
Old and
old
new.
and new.
Exactly.
This one is not that.
No, I think like you summed it up really, really well at the beginning, where this movie doesn't preach at all. Like it
Yeah.
is just observations. Like it is very slice of life of this mobster boy through his life and the
Yeah.
different people he has to experience, and it just identifies the culture change between the old and the new guard.
Yeah,
Really well.
yeah, and it even includes some of the way that the old guard is sort of still in control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you always pay
Despite-
it back up to Polly.
Right, yeah. They always pay it back up. The time when they kill Tommy,
Mm-hmm.
like that's very much a casualty of that old versus new thinking.
Yeah,
Um,
like this is just, we had to grin and bear it because right now we did not have the power in that situation.
right, yeah.
Like, those were the Italians?
Yeah.
The Italians just didn't stand for it.
Yeah.
And that was, they had the power still. They could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah.
He couldn't, we did all we could.
Yep. But yeah, I think this is one of those movies that the more I think about it, the more I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, and like I loved the depth in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the amount that it gives you to think about is really, really cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the emotional weight that it put on me specifically.
Yeah.
And like, it was worth it, but I don't know if that I would put myself through it again necessarily.
Well, that's a great transition into our next question. Have you seen the next film that we're
Before
going to
we
watch?
get to that, mafias are the original MLMs.
Have you seen
What is next week's film?
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
No, I've heard things. I
Yes.
don't know how many things, just some things.
Yeah.
My mom watched it in secret when she was like 9.
Oh no. You should not watch that movie when you're 9.
No, that's what I've heard. Her parents
Not
did not
that
know that she was watching it, but she was
it's
able to
not-
stick behind a chair for the
It's
entire
not
time.
like Godfather or Goodfellas level of like, hey, you shouldn't watch this when you're 9, but it's still
pretty.
it's still
I'll
not.
double check with her that this was the one, but I'm pretty sure it was.
All right. So yeah, we'll be back with the next episode after we watch that.
I'm super stoked. How do we
Yeah.
end this?